And the 2NC, let's get this started. Subpoint A, the values of traditional marriage are undermined by same-sex marriage. Robert P. George, McCormick Professor of Jurisprudence at Princeton University. A federal marriage amendment is necessary to protect marriage. Hot Topics, Homosexuality, 2004, November 28, 2012. Yet any argument for revising our law to treat homosexual relations as marital will implicitly do what clear-headed and honest proponents of same-sex marriages will explicitly acknowledge. It will deny that there are such moral reasons. Any such argument would have to treat marriage as a purely private matter designed solely to satisfy the desires of the married parties. If that's the case, there is no principled reasons marriage need imply exclusivity, fidelity, permanence, or even a limit of two people. Subpoint B, tampering with DOMA forces an undesired redefinition of marriage. Peter Sprigg, Senior Fellow for Policy Studies at the FRC. Pro-con, should DOMA be repealed? CQ Researcher, September 26, 2008, November 28, 2012. Family Research Council opposes giving formal recognition or benefits of homosexual relationships under any circumstance for numerous reasons. Even those who support same-sex marriage, however, should acknowledge that such a radical redefinition of our most fundamental social institutions should not be imposed by the federal government in the face of a strong consensus among the states against it. Still less should we allow unelected judges from one or two states to force such a policy upon every other state. The Federal Defense of Marriage Act has served us well for the last 12 years since its enactment and should not be tampered with. Subpoint C. The undesired recoding of marriage and its values leads to an engendered fear from religious people. Darren Hutchinson, Professor of Law at Washington College of Law, Sexual Politics and Social Change, Connecticut Law Review, number 5, July 2009, November 28, 2012. There is no doubt that many people, religious objectors as well as LGBT people, feel embattled. A significant subset of objectors to LGBT rights feels an emerging threat to religious liberty. They fear that a law or policy ensuring LGBT equality will require them to do something inconsistent with their religious beliefs or prevent them from doing something that their religious beliefs require. At its most extreme, the concern is that the inclusion of same-sex couples in definitions of marriage will lead states to silence the drive from the public sphere. Any opposition to LGBT rights, including the opposition that is based on religious tradition, various worst-case scenarios have already been forecast. Subpoint D, fear and outrage of religious people leads to a reignited political collision. Candace Chellu, chief editor of R&D magazine Religious Rights, doubles down on DOMA. R&D magazine, February 25, 2011, November 20, 2012. The prominent move on this issue by the NAE may be the organization's opportunity again to look tough on the marriage issue. It's dedicated to God's design for marriage was tested in 2008 when the NAE spokesman and VP for Government Affairs Richard Shizek resigned after revealing an interview that his views on marriage equality were shifting. The NAE's position on gay marriage is not shifting, however. We are not advocates for civil unions, although many evangelicals recognize the reality that civil unions have become law in many states. But we're not advocating for them. Whatever President Obama's reason for giving up on the defense of DOMA, one thing it seems to have done is reignite the religious rights passion for the issue. Subpoint E. An intense political collision leads to social polarization. Rice Williams, professor of sociology at Loyola University, is America in a Culture War, Christian Century Magazine, November 27, 2010, November 28, 2012. Second, Hunter argues not only that political conflicts run along this single axis, but that political positions cluster around two poles of that axis. That is, each worldview leads to a cluster of inherently related opinions on issues as varied as abortion, gay rights, welfare reform, school prayer, and economic policy. This clustering of issues leads to polarization and conflict, perhaps even violence, because the two poles are grounded in uncompromisable moral worldviews. Moreover, the polarization represents a significant realignment of social divisions. In sum, the narrow version of the culture wars idea is that incompatible worldviews force all significant political ideas and public attitudes onto one side of a polarized line. Conflict is inevitable, intractable, and escalating. Subpoints F. Social polarization causes violent conflicts. Joan Esteban, research professor at CSIC and Barcelona GSE, Polarization and Conflict, Theoretical and Empirical Issues, European Commission DG Research 6 Framework Program, 2004, November 28, 2012. One of the main increasingly accepted conjectures in the social sciences is the hypothesis that increasing polarization increases the risk of conflict, including armed violence. Although balance of power theorists are still influential, the growing available evidence shows that the power disparity is rather associated with an increased risk of conflict. Similarly, Esteban and Ray demonstrate from a political economy perspective that bipolarization of income or preferences maximizes the cost that competing groups incur into each other. The contributors to this volume examine these related claims systematically and identify some of the conditions under which growing divisions within a society, be it of individuals or of nation-states, are indeed linked to the usage of militarized force. Subpoint G. Violent conflicts arising out of social polarization are twice as likely to erupt in a localized civil war. Joan Esteban, research professor at CSIC and Barcelona GSE, Economic and Social Polarization Drive Violent Conflict, includes International Research Project, European Commission, 2008, November 28, 2012. Research has indicated that polarization and the subsequent risk of conflict are maximized when society is split into two equally sized groups. This applies to distributions of income as well as to ethnic, religious, or ideological divisions within a society. Measuring the polarization, however, we ascertain that it has much more than doubled. In other words, according to inequality indexes, there's nothing to say besides the major evidence that social and economic polarization can set the stage for violent conflict and wars. The research team also revealed diverse findings on the various other aspects of polarization and the outbreak of conflict, including the fact that the risk of civil war is twice as large in countries with high level of tension between groups in comparison to more egalitarian countries. I asked for cross-examination. How much time do I have left?
30 seconds.
Oh, shit. Oh, yeah.
All right, so for your subpoint B, can you please read the citation, just a citation?
Absolutely. Peter Sprigg, Senior Fellow for Policy Studies at the FRC Procon, should DOMA be repealed? CQ Researcher, September 26, 2008, November 28, 2012.
Okay. All right, in that one you talked about the Family Research Council.
Yes.
Can you tell me what kind of organization the Family Research Council is?
They're an organization that's dedicated to family, to research of families.
Research of family, are they, how are they
honestly
aligned?
don't know. I honestly don't know.
Yeah.
I'm assuming.
Family Research Council is a Christian organization, and do you feel that this evidence is, I mean, just based on the fact that they're extremely biased, do you feel it's valid evidence?
I would say that for the evidence that I'm using, yeah, it's valid evidence.
Okay. Are you talk about, is there in what you're saying, is there any sort of time that this would happen if gay marriages were recognized on a federal level? Would you say that there is these like civil wars that you're saying that are going to happen would happen immediately, or is this something that would build up over time?
I'd say that any war precipitates over time. So you're going to have it's all basically just forecasting. So no given time frame. It could be the day after. It could be 100 years from after.
Okay, and then do you think that gay marriage would be the only thing that would bring people to civil war? If that's the case, you don't think there would be any other differences that would cause these civil wars?
Absolutely, there's lots of differences, and most of them are polarizing.
Do you believe that this DOMA being overturned, do you think that would be the catalyst for what starts the wars?
Yeah.